Hey, what's up everyone, Rupla here. In today's video, we're going to build a perfect strike Gundam from Gundam Seed. Last time, we already built the Entry Grade Strike Gundam itself. So if you haven't seen that yet already, you can check it from the link down below in the description box. So far, we only had the base strike done without any of the equipment, but now I've bought all the option parts set made for the strike itself. That includes the Aile, sword, and the launcher strikers, which are all we need to turn it into perfect strike Gundam. So let's just jump straight into it. Because I modified this area here last time while building the strike, I had to trim this area a bit both on the launcher and sword striker set so it would fit nicely on the shoulder. And this is the perfect strike Gundam currently looking right now. Pretty cool, isn't it? Honestly, it feels like a whole different mobile suit at a glance just by adding all the equipment. Both the launcher and sword striker are all amazing. One thing I noticed right away is that the wings feel kinda small, like they're barely visible from the front. I could probably make them bigger, maybe a little bit wider to better match the overall proportion with all the equipment. It looks fine if you're just going for the Aile Strike Gundam, but once everything's combined, they really start to look too small, I think. Alright, that's the quick overview, now let's move on to the customization. Let's start with the sword striker. First up, the shoulder armor here. I want to remodel this outer plating here, which I think it's too blocky at the moment. Like, I want to make it somewhat to give a sense of separate piece. So I first cut this entire section here with a nipper. Then I gave it a quick sanding to smooth it out. I then sketched out a design for the plating on the plow plate here. I want it to look smaller and less blocky, I guess. So this is what I ended up with, which I think looks pretty good. Then I cut the plow plate based on the design I drew earlier and added a couple of layers with the cement to give it more depth, with the upper layer to have some little notch on top of it for the connector. Since it's still too thin, I then add this small plow plates underneath to give some kind of railing, I think. I don't know what it's called, but again, to give another extra information on the part. Then I add this smaller plow plate here on top of it to add an extra details. After that, I just add some additional panel lines here and there with a stencil and a chisel to pretty much give more details to the part. For the boomerang or the Midas Master, first we got this safety knob over here which looks ugly. So I remove it first with a nipper. Then I want to extend it a bit, so I sand it here to give more surface area for the plow plate. After that, I place a couple layers of plow plate on it and sand it until it matches the rest of the part like so. Next, I want to give a more dynamic look to the boomerang, so I feel like I'm going to remove a bit of section here. With a scriber, I gently pull it following the guide tape which I had placed it earlier, and just simply remove it with the nipper. Sand it down to smoothen the surface. Now we have something like this which I think looks pretty cool. Moving on to the Panzer Eisen, or the small shield plus anchor thingy here. Looking at it now, I cannot help but think how weird it looks, like it's too short and blocky, so I want to modify it a bit. First, I removed the small hook-like section here on the claw just by sanding it until it's gone. Then, I added 5 layers of 1mm plow plate on top of it to extend both length and the thickness. After that, I smoothed out every section here and now we have something like this. Next, I'm drawing this line to show where the part I'm going to keep. Then, I removed the rest of the area with a mini grinder. Now it looks more lengthy than before. But there's still a huge gap here in the middle. I think I have an idea. First, I need to clean this area first with a putty and give another layer of plow plate here on the inside. Then I create this particular piece from plow plate which will be the pincer for the claw. Then I sand the edges here a bit to make it a little bit sharper looks on the edges. After that, I just simply glue it on this area like so. And here's what it looks like now. Make sure the pincer is on like a different elevation so that it can somehow overlap with each other when it's close. Pretty cool, isn't it? After that, I pretty much add another layer of plow plate on top of each claw to basically add more information on the parts. For the top section here, I just add some plow plate here to match the proportion with the pincer. And this is how the Panzer Eisen looks like now. I really like the new proportion now, like it looks more natural. Look at how the pincer works. I think it works perfectly like what I want it to be. Like leaves no gap at all when you close it because of the small blade inside. Yeah, pretty cool. Next up, the big humongous sword, which is the
Schwertgewehr.
I don't know how to pronounce it to be honest. But anyway, something I want to change right away is the blade in front of it and adding a couple of details on the whole sword itself because at the moment, I think this whole section is too empty. So let's start working on it. I started by sketching some panel lines and carving them out with a chisel. Then I added a plow plate around here to give the area more elevation and a sense of part separation. Next, I want to rework the sword's blade. It looks fine, but I want something to look sharper. So I cut off the original one, sketch a new design here on ply plate, cut it, then stack 2 layers of 1mm ply plate with cement. Once dry, I sand everything down to match the outline of the new shape. I also sand the edge to make it look sharp with the help from the guiding tape. After that, I reattach the blade to the holder with the cement and put it back on the main body. I join these 2 large parts and remove the seam with the cement. After that, I add another ply plate on top of here and clean it up with a hobby knife. I feel like something is still missing, so I added another ply plate down here where the beam goes, to extend the area a bit I think. Then I add this random long plastic beam here to give the area a bit more detail, since it still feels kind of empty. I also sand the edge a bit to make the end more slanted. And now the anti-shaped sword basically look like this. I hope I don't go overboard with all the customization, but I think it looks pretty amazing so far. Now let's put everything together. I grabbed this new part and glued them to the shoulder part like that with a super glue. I also added extra panel lines here and there, nothing too fancy, so I skipped most of that process. And this is what the sword strike finally looks like now. Pretty cool, right? Way bulkier and more aggressive than before, which wasn't the plan at the beginning, but hey, I think it looks cool. The shoulder guard here is still a bit thick for me, it could be slimmer, but I think it's fine. The pincer or the anchor here on the other hand looks way more menacing now, right? And I love that. Now let's move on. For the launcher strike, I feel like I'm not going to add too much because as you can see, the Hyper Impulse cannon is pretty much detailed already. It just lacks color separation and such, so I'll probably just paint it later on, we'll see. But for the shoulder parts here, I feel like there's something I want to modify. Like the fin here and the gun pot could be better, I think. One thing I like from this pack is that this connector between the backpack and the Hyper cannon is just loosely attached to each other as you can see right here. Like, it's really neat, I love it. So yeah, let's start modifying the launcher pack. Let's start with the Hyper Impulse cannon. First, we need to get rid of this huge seam line over here. So I grabbed some Tamiya Cement S, the thinner, more flowy one. Then with this clamp, I gently press these 2 rifle parts like this to make sure the cement sticks tightly until it squeezes out most of the cement as you can see right here. After it dried, I basically just sand all the excess cement with a sandpaper and such. I pretty much did the same thing for the other weapons here, like this bazooka, since they're basically just 2 big parts sandwiched together as well. So yeah. Back to the Hyper Launcher, with a chisel I rescribe all the existing details and panel line to make it more defined and make it more appear. What I want to do next is add 2 long thin ply plates on top of this rifle like so, and another one here extra on the back, and with help of the guiding tape, I carve out all the ply plates every 1mm more or less. The plan is to make, I don't know what you call it, but that's some kind of railing on top of the rifle where you mount your scope and attachment. So yeah, something like that. Anyway, just repeat the process until all the lines pretty much look like this. Pretty cool, right? Even though the spacing is not evenly spread, I don't know, it's hard, like I think the guiding tape hates me so much it won't stick at all, oh my. But at least it's cool. Now moving on to the weapon pod here, which is the shoulder armor. The first thing I want to modify is this Vulcan pod. I want to make it more like a Gatling gun. You know, with all the barrels and this like that. I don't know if I could make it, but hey, let's give it a try. I want to make a 6-barrel Gatling gun because most of what I see out there got 6 barrels. So I first need a disc which will hold the barrel and all. I'm not the best at measuring things, so I googled on how to make a symmetrical 6 hole in a circle, something like that, and found some guide like this. So I followed that. First, I draw the circle with a compass. Then, using a compass, draw a curve from each quarter point of the circle until you get this. After that, I draw a line for every time the curvy line intersects with the circle, and we got pretty much something like this. Next, I just drill a hole on each blue line for where the barrel will go. I try to drill it at the same length from the center as possible. And after countless attempts at making the most symmetrical one, I feel like this one probably the best out of the others, so let's choose this one. Next, I just need to cut this from ply plate. But since I don't have those fancy circular cutters, I did it manually. Yep, you heard that right. So I need to improvise. I attach a panel line carving needle to my compass like this and just basically went for it. This thing is not sharp enough to cut cleanly, but it does leave a nice circle marking there. And honestly, that's good enough for now. Next, I just manually cut and sand it with a sanding sponge, trying my best to keep it smooth and as round as possible. Seriously, if I had a circular cutter, this would have been so much easier and save a ton of time. Okay, so we got 2 of the discs now. Next, I grab a ply rod and cut it into 6 equal pieces is for the barrels. After that, I just insert all the barrels one by one carefully into the disc. Make sure the position between each hole is aligned perfectly. Then add the cement to finish things off. Now all we need to do is how to attach it to the shoulder armor. I decided to get rid of this section entirely, then just add the super glue and simply attach the Gatling gun on it. And now we got the Gatling gun like this. Oh my god, finally! You guys have no idea how much trial and error and how long this process alone took. It's not perfectly circular, but hey, it works pretty cool, isn't it? Moving on, the next thing I want to modify is the whole wing section here. Wait, is it a wing? I think it's a shield, right? Not a wing. Anyway, not too fancy, just wanna make it a bit sharper, that's all. I remove a little bit of an area over here with the help of guiding tape and I just cut it with a nipper and it became like this. Next, I want to extend the shield a bit to the side, so I cement a plow plate over here and give it a sand. The shape I'm aiming for is like the one I sketched here, so I need to add a couple more plow plates around the side. And now the shield looks more balanced than before. Now for the tip of the shield, I trim the bottom part of the shield slightly with a nipper, both on the upper and lower sections. After that, with this plow plate that I had already stacked together beforehand, I just attached to the area we cut off earlier. The same goes for the small upper shield here. Then I place a guiding tape to align the original shield with the new one. After that, I just sand everything until the plate match and align with the original shape. And now we have something like this. It's still in rough shape, but it's pretty cool so far. Now we've got a bit of a mess to fix underneath the shield. This metal structure looking thingy here is now cut off, so let's take care of that. First, I grabbed some body and just straight up filled all the hollow areas like this. I also added a bit to this small spot on the upper shield. Once it's fully cured, I just sand it down as usual until everything was nice and smooth. Now that this area is perfectly flat, we need to rebuild the frame from earlier, but I wonder how. So I had an idea. First, I pressed this whole section using a masking tape, then transfer it into a plow plate. After that, I start sketching how the frame might look. The idea here is to recreate the metal frame using plow plate. Sounds simple on paper, but let's see how it goes. Here's how the drawing turned out. With a hand drill, I start by drilling small holes at each corner. Then I carefully use a hobby knife along the edges to connect those points. Gently push it by hands to remove all the areas we don't need. Looking good so far. Now we just need to line it up with the part and basically just glue it with a cement like so. Once it's perfectly in place, I trim the excess plow plate with a nipper, then follow up with the sandpaper squat to remove all that excess to make it smooth all around the edges. And finally, it looks something like this now. I think it turned out to be great. Lastly, I carved a panel line for the yellow part since we removed it earlier. I also added a couple of panel lines for extra details. For the last modification, I added this small ornament which I create from plow plate and basically just glue it on top of this area here to add extra information to the part. So that's pretty much for the launcher strike. Really love how the modification went. Some additional things on the Hyper Impulse cannon looks clean. Then we got the Gatling gun on the side here, which looks awesome. It looks so much better than before, right? I personally think so. Now that the launcher strike is done, let's move on. Now we're at the Aile Strike pack. I've been hyped for this one since the start of the build. Okay, where do we even start? I wanna make the main wings here a bit beefier, cause like I said in the beginning, they feel too small. Maybe they're fine for the Aile Strike alone, but once we go full perfect strike, they kinda sink into the back and barely show any, which I personally think doesn't look great. I'm not really sure what approach I should take. Maybe I could just add a plow plate on the back here, but that feels like a hassle. Might be easier to just remove the old one entirely and make a new piece from scratch, no? So I sketched a couple of designs in my sketchbook. Most of them were inspired by old propellers plane, you know. They're not meant to look super aggressive because with all that equipment, you're probably not flying around at top speed on the battlefield. At least that's what's going on in my head right now. Even though in the anime, it still does some crazy stunt with it. I mean, you get the idea, right? So I start sketching the blueprint directly onto the plow plate. And this is what the final design ended up looking. This upper area will be the red parts, while this area down here will be the black one. After finishing the blueprint, I went ahead and sketched out the actual parts for the build. So here's how it works. These two are going to be the base where the middle layer sits, and this other four pieces will be the upper and the lower layers. I want to create some elevation so it will have that multi-layered looks. Roughly cut all the plow plate like so, don't clean it up just yet. Then I align the top and bottom layer with the line from the base or the middle layer like so. After that, I glue it with the cement. Once everything dried out, I start to clean up just by sanding it with everything I got while tracing along the line I had already made from the sketch earlier. Now it looks something like this. It's still in a rough shape, but we're getting there. Next, we need to attach it to the main body. So I grab the original wing here and just cut the whole wing like this, leaving only the joint for the wings. All we need to do now is to attach the new wing to the connector here. I was thinking only using a super glue, but I feel it won't be enough, so I grabbed an epoxy putty and basically just joined these two parts together with the putty. As always, after it fully cured, using a mini grinder and the sanding squad, I flatten out the whole putty like so, until it looks like this. Pretty neat, I must say. Up next, the wings still have these blocky edges in front of, as you can see here, and we definitely do not want that. We need to make it a little bit curvy somehow. I put some guiding tape along this side just to make sure I don't sand past these areas. After that, I use a flexible sanding sponge and gently start sanding with a rougher 200 grit, using a more curved motion just like this. For the bottom part, I place the guiding tape a bit closer to the edge so I can achieve this kind of shape, if that makes sense. Lastly, I carve the straight lines with a chisel to make the curved edge area more defined from far away. Just like the real airplane wings, right? And look at that, from the side it's finally got the shape I was aiming for, which is great. Now for the back side of the wing, I pretty much did the same thing, but this one's a lot more slanted and sharp to give it a more aerodynamic look. Now we have something like this, which is awesome. After all this, I pretty much just spam an additional panel lines here and there just to give more information on the wing, like some flaps and such, so it's just not an empty piece of plastic. I want to add a lot of details, but without making it feel overcrowded, if that makes sense. I added some variation here where I carve with a wider chisel to make this tiny square hole, then I fill it with a really small pla beam to give extra details. Now the whole wing looks like this. Oh my god, look at that. It's kinda crazy. I cannot believe I actually made this from scratch. Like, I really love how the overall shape turned out to be after putting everything together. It's got that beefier look I was going for compared to the old one. And the length feels just right. Sure, there are still some imperfections here and there, like a few unintentional scratches and dents, but I'll clean that up off cam later with some putty and friends. Overall, I'm super satisfied with the results, so yeah. For another extra touch, I add just this simple small triangular pla plate here for another some kind of small vertical fin, I guess. Now moving on to the lower engine or thruster here, let's see what we can do. I want to modify this small vertical wing here. I place a guiding tape to create such a shape here, then I just went ahead and cut it with a nipper. And now the wing looks like this, which I personally think looks pretty cool. The same goes for the smaller one, which you can see here. Next, I grabbed this giant thruster, which I don't know where it came from. I think I can create something with this limit, right? So I cut this thing in half with a handsaw, then I grab the one where the nozzle is and remove all the outer shell, just leaving the only nozzle like so, if that makes sense. Then I grab the outer part of the thruster, which I had already sand it down, so there's just this thin bit of it left. After that, I glued on a small piece of pla plate like so. Next, place the nozzle from before in the middle like that. And finally, just remove the excess of the pla plate, leaving only the rounded part here. As you can see, I transformed the thruster into a much slimmer version compared to before. Let's keep it for now. The next thing I need to do is grab this part, and with the grinder, I try to scrape it from inside to greatly reduce the thickness. I then also remove this blocky section here on the engine, and now I can finally fit the thruster from before inside this main engine here. I honestly don't know if it's gonna be visible after everything's painted or not, but yeah, we'll have to see it later. To finish things off, I glued these two parts together with the cement to get rid of the seam line in the middle. Then I start adding some extra panel lines across this whole black area here. Weirdly enough, I don't know why, but carving on this part just felt off. The black plastic seemed softer than rest, and for some reason, I couldn't get a clean straight line, like everything felt kinda jagged all of a sudden. But it only happened on this black piece here, the rest is perfectly fine, I swear. Not sure if the plastic material is different, or maybe I used too much cement from earlier. But yeah, it's weird. Oh yeah, not to forget the shield, I just add a bunch of panel lines here, nothing crazy. And this is how the Aile Striker looks right now. It looks so cool, oh my god, just look at those wings. The old ones used to look too small, but now they look way more heavy looking, right? I didn't expect the wingspan to look that long from the front, especially at this angle. It just gives the whole kit such a powerful presence. The added details turns out pretty great too. I feel like the wing proportions are just perfect. I am not 100% sure yet, but we'll see once we put everything together. So yeah, that's pretty much all the custom work done. Up next, I'll clean off the dust and then we go straight into painting. Starting off with the base color, I use Mr. Sufficient 1000 Gray for almost every part just like usual. I began painting the main red color for the Aile Strike with a Mr. Color Red Matter. Then for the most of the black parts, I just use black. Moving on to the Sword Striker, I originally want to use the Sword Strike Blue from Aqueous. It's an aqueous color and I thought it would be fine for airbrushing. But honestly, I just feel more comfortable using the regular Mr. Color paints, which are the lacquer paint. So instead, I picked a color that looked the most similar just by comparing the bottle caps while I was at the hobby shop. I ended up going with the Mr. Color Azure Blue for the main blue parts. For the secondary blue, I chose the darker one, which is the character blue. For the sharp tip of the blade, I choose Mr. Color Silver. As you can see here, I already paint the base with the glossy black to give the silver a shinier finish in the end. I did pretty much the same thing with the Grand Slam, which is this large sword here, and this small flat thruster here. Now for the Launcher Striker, same story as the Sword Striker. I ended up choosing this particular dark green because it was the closest match to the Aqueous Launcher Strike green. Since I want to create like 2 shades of green, I first mixed the green with a little bit of black for the secondary color, which I'll be spraying it first, like for this middle section of the gun and some of the ornament. Then I sprayed the dark green on the rest of the launcher and all the side shield over here. After that, I sprayed yellow for the tip of the shield and the circle part here right before the Gatling gun, which I've already maxed beforehand. For the Gatling gun, I just used metallic black. The same goes for these hose looking parts here for the Sword Striker. For inner frame parts under the shield, I use enamel gray so I wouldn't have to mask the rest of the part. Then with this swap stick that is soaked with enamel thinner, just gently wipe all the area that shouldn't be gray. Pretty simple, right? For the weapons like the rifle and the bazooka, I simply use a bit of gray and black to make it more like dark gray. I want to mimic the color for the rifle with the one from Really Great Strike, so I paint the top half with a white color. Still in the white color, I paint all the batteries both for the Aile Striker and the one at the end of the Hyper Launcher here. Lastly, for the beam saber effect, I start with the white as a base, then lightly sprayed over it with the pink. I was going for that gradient look where a bit of the white still shows at the base to make it feel like a beam's glowing from the center. I think that's all for the airbrush. Now let's start doing some detailing here. I am not going too deep with the explanation to make it concise, but basically I did some hand brushing for some of the details with an enamel paint, like this black part of the battery, this silver rod looking thingy underneath the launcher. Then I also used a bunch of gray here like this section on the launcher, and this connector for the shoulder armor. There's a lot of gold and silver on the battery pack, just to spice things up. Last but not least, I start panel lining all the existing details using Tamiya panel line accent color. For the black areas, I use some enamel silver, thin it down a lot, and apply it just like a regular panel line wash. After that, clean all the excess paint across the parts using a swab with an enamel thinner. Pretty straightforward. Next up, the water slide decal. This time I'll be using the same one from the last video, which is the Otakiri decal. So I picked this decal which was made specifically for the Perfect Strike Gundam. Simply cut the decal with a scissor, then soak it in water for a few seconds. After that, carefully slide it onto the parts like so. What I like from this decal is that the text is perfectly visible even in this size. It gives so much information to the parts. For the very last step, I give everything a top coat using a Mr. Color Super Clear Flat. The only parts I left out were the metallic ones like the tip of the blade, the Gatling gun, and the Grand Slam. I really love this top coat as always, it makes everything look so smooth. Like all the imperfections just disappear instantly. Okay, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, I mean just look at that. Okay, now that everything's done, let's put it all together. First the wing here. Ooh, would you look at that? Both wings turned out pretty nice. I really like how it ended up to be. Both the size and the length are perfect I think. And the color looks just great with the decals. Next to lower engine here, and we need to talk. Man, I don't know what's wrong with this panel line. It keeps coming out rough no matter what I do. I've carved it like 3 times or more already, and it still looks kinda jagged here. What happened? And it only appears on this part. The other panel lines are just fine, I swear. Oh my god. I don't know. Anyway, putting that aside for now, I grabbed the thruster we made earlier and put it in the engine like this. Then I glued this part on, and now it looks like this. Honestly, I'm glad the thruster is visible even from far away. Thank god. Next, we attach the battery packs underneath here, which honestly looks pretty good with the gold and silver accents there. Don't forget this small fin here. Now we just need to attach it on the back of the strike. Don't forget to attach the shield and the rifle. And we got ourselves an Aile Strike Gundam. It looks really cool, right? I really love the overall looks on the striker pack. Okay, let's save it for later, okay? Next up, we got this weapon pod for the launcher strike. Hey, look at that Gatling gun, looks really good. Oh my god, that's probably the most difficult thing in this project. And I'm so happy with it. And the side shield looks sharper than before. Also with the underneath frame here, which looks awesome. Next, we got the Hyper Impulse Cannon Agni. Oi, this one also looks nice. The color and details really pop off, even though I feel like all the hand brushes could be better, but overall it looks pretty cool. And here's what the backpack looks like if you're wondering. So let's just attach the Hyper Impulse Cannon here on the back, and the weapon pod here on the shoulder. Okay, we're getting there. Next up, we got the
Schwertgewehr.
It looks a lot busier than before with all the added plating here and there. The blade tip turned out great, but somehow it's slightly bent. No, why? I didn't even notice until now. Oh my. I think I oversanded it while it was already attached to the sword. This is so bad. Oh my god. But look at that beam effect, it turned out really pretty. The handle also looks pretty. Next up is the Panzer Eisen. Honestly, I feel like I could add another couple of extra details, but I think it's fine. The anchor here looks pretty cool with that small blade on the inside. So this is how it's gonna look on the hand with the new shoulder guard plus the boomerang up there, which looks awesome. I really like how it fully covers the arms now. I know this will probably reduce the articulation, but it looks great nonetheless. Now let's just put it back to the body and place the anti-sword ship on the back here. And with that, the perfect strike Gundam is finally complete. It's an absolute beast once everything comes together. The Aile, sword and launcher strike, everything make it looks more powerful and intimidating. Every little modification really helped push the overall look. The build was a real challenge, but seeing the final result make it all worth it. And yep, that's pretty much it with the strike. The build is now done, and now it's time for a spin.
Aggressive vibes consuming me. I'm falling just for you. It's all I get. 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 So consume me.
And there you have it, the custom built and fully painted Perfect Strike Gundam. So what do you guys think about it?
For me personally, yeah, it's pretty stressful build I must say. But the end result really turned out to be great. The custom wing and all, the Gatling gun, the launcher, the sword, and every other little modification looks cool in the end. But overall, this Perfect Strike Gundam is a fun yet stressful build, but I still love it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching my build. It's a bit long, I know, I'll do better next time. Thank you for watching until the end. Consider giving this video a like, leaving a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next build. Bye!